in software development. It is very risky to isolate the cause to just one. However, today I'm going to make an effort and look into what is the concern of BAs, namely requirements, and going one step back, elicitation of requirements. So this is why, for today, I want us to look together at the definition of elicitation, the object of elicitation, and two techniques, so to say, that help us to do this, to conduct this activity. I'm going to start with a magical definition, and the title is not random at all. It comes from Latin, and elicitation means to draw out by trickery or magic. This magical character is iterated in the definitions both of Urev and of Babok. And I'm sure we all know these are the two regulatory bodies of our domain. It's the International Requirements Engineering Board and the Business Analysis Body of Knowledge. So when we look at words like unconscious, subconscious, or latent, or potential, we realize that requirements are not so straightforward. And all kidding aside with this magic character, the reason for finding such words in the definition is the fact that requirements imply a lot of modeling the domain knowledge, and making use of abstractization. We cannot construct models using all the details of the problem. Furthermore, with the groups involved in this activity, on the one hand side, business representatives or BAs, non-technical persons, and on the other hand side, even though not so intuitive, the developers or the technical people. These groups of people tend to ignore the information that they think it's none of their concern. So here's why we do this modeling. So we kind of strip out what we think is irrelevant, and this is the space where we invite failure, in my opinion. The object of elicitation is requirements. Now, requirements doesn't mean only business requirements, but it also means solution requirements. And basically the whole point of my presentation is to point out that it is not necessarily a war between these two, and we cannot choose to do either one or the other. But we rather need to do this in an organized way, or at least to be aware when we elicit requirements from the business and when we elicit requirements from solution side. We again have a very nice definition, and I want to point out here some key words. If we read through it, a requirement is a conditional capability that must be met or possessed to satisfy a contract, standard, specification, or another formally imposed document. And in another point of the definition is that this conditional capability needs to bring value to the stakeholder. So there are keywords like value, stakeholder, and let's not forget condition and constraints. So we cannot ignore either one or the other. To prove this point, I'm going to use an example of a missing window or an empty window frame. We see here three pictures, and Google didn't help me too much. You're just going to have to go with me. Imagine an empty window frame, and imagine you try to solve the problem. The question is, what problem are you trying to solve, and how would you go about it? In Romania, we have a word, jump the one. Whoever knows the English translation can help me to tell Thomas. It's a sort of glass that basically prevents any air from moving from inside to outside and outside to inside. Isolate. So we would just snap at the solution and say we go buy such a glass, but did we consider the context? Are we talking about our own home, or are we talking about maybe just a house that is found on an empty field, on the countryside, or are we talking about a mental health institution or prison? I think, again, this is an exaggeration to prove a point, but I think in the second picture we would be interested maybe just to have a simple cover for rain, whereas in the third example with the prison or the mental health institution, we would be very much concerned to prevent people from breaking the glass, or maybe security or privacy. Maybe we want it to be mirrored so that people don't see from the outside in. The point of this exercise is to highlight the importance of the context. And as Thomas pointed out yesterday, we're going to do this elicitation in increments. We're going to formulate the problem to some extent, then look at the solution, then go back and flesh out some more details with regards to the problem, and so on and so forth. Now, to do this, we need some techniques. we cannot do this in my way. We have to do this in a structured way. So this is why we are going to look to the interview. Sounds pretty straightforward, but I think it's important to have a name for it to prevent it from going astray. And I like to give context and structure to such a conversation. So as a definition, we need to look at the interview as a planned conversation that compels people to tell you what they're not asked and what they don't want to tell you. This is the tricky bit. Furthermore, what makes it so hard is the fact that you have to build on what you hear during the interview, so you don't have very much time to plan for it, and also to bounce back on the person you're talking to and how he or she reacts. Contrary to popular belief, you have to listen more than you have to talk, and my view is you have to ask the right questions. How do you know you ask the right questions? Close-end questions are, in my view, a total no. So it brings absolutely no value to me if I ask you, "Dear Raluca, isn't it right you want a black dress, a long dress, and that you look very good without a sleeve?" The answer would be yes, but we don't know the event Raluca is going or what she prefers. All we ask is if she likes a black dress. So close-end questions make information get lost. To prevent that from happening, there are some key words to help us bring out the most. And some examples are the ones displayed here, namely why, and of course we've heard yesterday from Thomas that we need to ask that repeatedly to get to the bottom of the problem that we want to solve. We want to ask what, so that we understand what situation cause the problems, what are the motivations. And then, of course, if we talk about constraints, we want to know, again, the reasons and motivations that bring those constraints forward. If we want to give the product owner a space to be open, we would ask him to give examples or formulate could-should questions. But in my experience, that's kind of a tricky exercise. You really have to invite the person twice or 3 times such that they really give you examples. This is why I tend to go gradually rather than ask for an example up front, because people are either reluctant to do so or cannot imagine it from the beginning. So just take it step by step. So that's with the tools and techniques that we have. However, there's also a soft side to this interview. Like I said, we're building on human tendencies, not only information. And I choose to look at it in a positive way. However, there are traps. Um, Everybody wants to prove competent and smart, so we should try to avoid the desire for self-expression. I don't want to appear smart in front of the person whom I'm listening from. I need to pay extra attention to the target's visual response, to see what is their attitude towards sharing information on that topic. Is he comfortable in sharing that information? Is he bored? Does he have something else to do? We have to create the space where the person feels safe to share this information. Nobody likes to be in the spotlight and be questioned about stuff they don't know, so try to minimize the ego threat as much as possible. Okay, so this is what to avoid, and what to use in a positive way is all these things listed here, and depending on your relationship with the stakeholder, you can pick and choose whichever seems appropriate. There are things that are safe, like expressing a mutual interest or the instinct to complain. However, there are tricks to each and one of them. For example, a quid pro quo might also help if your relationship is more formal, or simple flattery, but you tend to step outside the formal boundaries, so you may want to pay extra attention. If you're experienced or you are very confident, you can try the so-called oblique references. That is, intentionally, during your speech, you say something that you think is wrong. Why would you do this? You will try to validate your understanding of the domain. You are validating your model of the business, right? So you intentionally introduce a false statement, and you count on the person's instinct to correct, to prove they're smarter, to prove they know better, and hence to correct you. And this is the way you validate your model of the world. Same thing goes for opposing stand causes. So even though you agree with the person, you just deliberately take an opposite stance to try to prove a point. Okay. Maybe this sounds like a small screen and sounds fairly intuitive. So if we looked at business requirements, now we're going to look at the so-called solution requirements. This is at the step where we kind of know the what, and we want to look closer to the how. From the available techniques, I chose to speak about interface analysis because I think this helps to uncover the solution requirements to some extent. So I prepared a slide about this. I'm going to treat it more superficially than the interview. So interfaces and interface analysis have as purpose to identify the components of the system and how they will interact. It is important to know that there are more types of interfaces, not only user interfaces, there are system-to-system interfaces, or interfaces to external hardware or to other software. And okay, if we look at how we are going to do this, we can start from the context diagram. And we have just 3 little things to keep in mind when we want to define the interface. Inputs, the rules that govern those inputs, like, I don't know, the length of a text or such more, and the outputs. So if we try to structure our thinking based on these 3 criterions, we will uncover more and more occasions to step into another interview and to gather more information. This is the cycle as I see it. This is further reading, but I want to go back to a previous slide and again to go to one of Thomas's points from yesterday. Just because if we don't pay enough attention to discriminating between the 2 terms, solution requirements and business requirements, the project is facing quite some risks, like losing the interest of a stakeholder. If I talk to a business person about technical details, he will surely not be interested. Or false endorsements, which is furthermore risky, right? We just, okay, at some point he just dismisses me. And I go with the implementation of something that in the end would be rejected. Last but not least, rework, potential rework, and potential costs. So I know there's not really a recipe, and I would be very reluctant to set it in stone. But I think if we are clear in our minds that there are two objects of the elicitation and we need to pay attention to both, just maybe state at the beginning of the elicitation activity that, okay, now we're going to look at the problem, at the need, and in a subsequent meeting we're going to address the particular technical details. I think that that would also minimize the technical people going into, I don't know, disable mode or ignorance mode. And that's it. There's a very interesting blog entry which is found at that link that tries to settle this this debate, goes round in circles, only to come to the conclusion that the what for one group of participants to the project can be the how for the next layer in the organization. So if we just take the example of the relationship product owner to business analyst and business analyst to developers, you can very easily see that what comes from product owner to BA is usually the what, right? From the PO's perspective. However, for the BA, it will become the how, because we will model it, we will do diagrams, and we will furthermore present it to the developers. However, when they receive it, this is the what. Again, the same information looked from different perspectives, can be either the what or the how, so let's not set it in stone, let's just make sure we address the correct business layer with the correct information, or the correct layer with the correct information. If you would like to debate anything that has been said, I am available over email, over phone, or here for questions. I pass the relay to whoever wants to close this